There should be no fear in biscuit making. Biscuit making is actually pretty simple if you have a good recipe, and most biscuit recipes are very similar. I'm not here to try to talk the experienced baker out of their beloved recipe. I'm here to just show a recipe that works well for me. First, I have my oven preheated to 450 degrees. So the first thing I'm going to add is 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and I've already got that pre-measured. 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 3 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Because I'm using all-purpose flour, that means I'm using baking powder and salt. I'm just going to mix these dry ingredients together. Now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of shortening, and this is Crisco. I always keep my shortening in the refrigerator. They do better when your ingredients are cold, such as your solids and your liquids. The cold ingredients make the biscuits pop and be fluffy and flaky. I'm going to cut this shortening in until it's all like pea-sized bits. I'm going to use this large serving fork. You can use the dough cutters. There's different sizes, types, and styles. I don't care for those. You can use your hands. I use the fork. And I just go around and mash it in until it's all small little bits and no large clumps. Fork works good because that Crisco will go between the tines on the fork and squeeze out and turns into just small little bits. Now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of milk. You can use regular milk, which is what I'm using this time, or you can use buttermilk. I'm just going to get this mixed in good together, and then it'll be ready to roll out on the counter. It may look dry and crumbly, but it'll all come together when I start folding it on the counter. Now I'm just going to flour my surface. I use my countertop. I don't worry about it. And I'm going to flour it and roll the dough out. I'm going to bring it all together. I have flattened it out a little bit, and I'm just going to fold. And then I'll flatten it out just a little, and then I'm going to fold again. Those folds will create the flaky layers in the biscuits. Before I roll this out, I'm going to get my pan ready. I use a flat cast iron, and this particular recipe fits really good on this cast iron. I'm going to grease this with Crisco really good. I'm really generous with the shortening on the pan. That's going to make the biscuits just come sliding out. I use a biscuit cutter. You can use a lid that's sharp enough to cut through. You can use a glass edge if it's large enough for the size biscuit you want. Anything that you want to cut, as long as it will cut a clean cut. And I go down and pull back up. I do not twist. When you can't get another cut, you gather it all together. Put it back in a ball. And flatten it out again. Not too thin though. You want your biscuits to puff up fluffy. There's the biscuits, and I like to coat the top of my biscuits with milk. You can use water, you can use an egg wash, you can use butter, you can even use the Crisco that you used as an ingredient. I like the way the milk does. This recipe takes 10 to 12 minutes in the oven to bake at 450. I always set my timer for 10 instead of the 12.